Punch for $500 billion. Would you do it? A genie suddenly appears before you, and instantly, every screen across the globe, TVs, phones, billboards, begins broadcasting a live feed of you and the genie. There's a 24-hour delay, so the world will hear and see everything you say, but only a day later. The genie offers you $500 billion, an unimaginable amount of money that could change your life and the lives of future generations. You can use it however you want, cash, gold, stocks, or even in varying amounts at different times. For example, $5 for a taxi now, or $5 million in 5 years. The wealth will always be available to you. But there's one condition: you must punch a baby. Not just any baby, but the one you're emotionally closest to. Whether it's your own child, a sibling's baby, a best friend's child, a niece or nephew, or even a neighbor's infant, you must physically find the baby and punch it full force in the face. The impact would almost certainly be fatal. Once the act is done, you will receive the $500 billion instantly, in any form you desire. However, you will likely face legal consequences. Whether you fight them, use your wealth to evade punishment, or face the repercussions is up to you. Would you take the deal? Why or why not? When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends? 1. When my phone got stolen and I lost their phone numbers. Mine stayed the same, but we just never talked again. 2. When they stopped contacting me when I stopped drinking. 3. One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college. Like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them. 4. Once high school ended, I heard about all the rumors they made up about me. 5. The group made plans to meet and hang out. I was getting ready in the salon. A couple of friends had to back out for some reason. The other friend then made excuses of his own, and I could tell. I tried cajoling him and offer ways for him to go, but he basically decided to cancel the entire group meetup. It was my birthday. 6. I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses. What is the most disturbing thing to know? 1. Flies don't have teeth. So, when they land on your sandwich and want to eat some, they barf up the contents of their stomach, often containing another animal's shit, so the digestive enzymes can get on the food and then they eat. 2. During World War II, Japan bombed China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. 3. Pelicans are some of the most demonic birds in existence, if not some of the most demonic creatures. Pelicans will go into other birds' nests, shove the parents out of the nest. They will then swallow babies whole, fly back to their own nests, and regurgitate the still half-alive, partially digested babies, to their own babies for them to consume. Some pelicans are literally raised on the partially digested, living flesh of other baby birds. 4. Chris Farley's last words were "Don't leave me." He said it to the prostitute he was with, who then stole his watch and took a picture of him dead/dying. 5. Hotels rarely clean their ice machines. 6. That the majority of humans will wait until life-threatening problems become unsolvable before they try to fix them. What made you go on your villain arc? My little brother was in middle school when he was getting bullied by a much bigger kid. He would constantly come home with cuts and bruises on his arms and legs. The bully even threw a football right in my brother's face and he almost lost his eyesight. The principal called this incident playful microaggression and did nothing about it. My parents were basically the same, telling my brother to ignore the bullying and it would go away, but I had the ice hockey mentality and firmly believed that everything should be solved with violence. One day, I followed the school bus around and waited until the bully got off the bus so I could find out where he lived. Being 18, I knew I couldn't just lay hands on him and risk going to prison, but I also wanted to hurt him just as much as he hurt my brother. So I got creative. I planted evidence to make it look like his dad was cheating on his mother, and this started a really messy divorce. After that I broke into their house at night, and switched the meds his dad was taking to deal with his depression. He couldn't deal with the betrayal and ended up jumping off a bridge after a few days. The bully's mother actually blamed him for everything, because I set it all up in a way where she thought it was him who lied to his dad about the cheating. She started drinking heavily and started laying hands on him from what my brother told me. Things got so bad that she just disappeared one day and never came back, so the bully was left all alone. In hindsight I probably went too far. Who was the most evil person you've met? 1. My cousin's wife. She made up a completely fabricated story of having an affair with my sister's husband while they were going through a rough patch in their marriage. She has cheated on my cousin at least twice. And the worst one. She physically assaulted a cancer patient at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. She got fired, but the charges were dropped because the patient died before he could testify in court. 2. When I worked in a victims of crime-related agency, I had to interview a convicted sex offender who was, 30 years after his crimes against young boys, determined to get another job in a child interacting role through his contacts. He totally blamed his victims for leading him on. Very few people have ever given me the heebie-jeebies, but he's the one who disturbed me the most. 3. I went to Jim Jones's church in San Francisco with my neighbor who was a member. I was 13. She made me go up to the altar so he could save me. He put his hands on my shoulders, stared at me, and asked me if I believed. I was pretty freaked out. I shook my head yes, and he moved on to the next person. I'll never forget his eyes. They were scary. This was about a year before the Jonestown massacre. What's the most terrified you've ever been in your life? 1. There was a shooting at my high school when I was in 11th grade. I'm grateful that I was hiding in a classroom, not getting shot at. Still, hiding, listening to screams and gunshots in the distance, and not knowing who was hurt or if they'll find you next is terrifying. For several years, I looked for hiding spots everywhere I went. 2. When I was 10, I was on a ride called the Whip at a carnival and the belt popped loose and I fell out of the car. I was hanging onto the edge and the guy running the ride was not paying attention. Everyone was screaming and yelling, but I was too scared to say anything. Finally, the guy shut the ride down and I clanged around a bit and got some bumps and bruises, but I was glad to be alive. My mom had to be held back from attacking the ride operator. 3. Just 22 hours ago, when our manufactured home in Northeast Arkansas was hit by a tornado. The house doesn't have a basement, and we don't have a storm shelter, so we were all huddled in the hallway. As the tornado hit, we could feel the house literally coming up from the ground underneath us. 4. When my daughter got stung by a man-of-war. She was going into shock from the pain and screaming, "I don't want to die." Worst few hours of my life, and I'm sure hers too.